Hey there, guys. Welcome to the Scaler Show, and I've got a epic episode for you guys today. I've got Brett Levy from Beyond Intent. How are you going today, Brett?
I'm good, and you, Jared? How's it going?
Doing incredibly well. Been looking forward to this interview. So on today's episode, we're going to be sharing a little bit more in depth into Brett, his background, what he's currently doing, etc., and going through, the normal thing, the challenges, how he overcome them as well, because he's got a fair history in business, and he's helped a lot of digital agencies and a huge background in that area too, and consults to some very, very large companies throughout Australia and internationally as well. So really excited to find out more in depth, and you want to find out a little bit more info about Brett. So Brett, if you'd like to just share for the viewers, just give us a little bit of an understanding on you, who you are, what you currently do, and who you serve.
So I'd like to meet this Brett. He sounds pretty cool. He's done some nice stuff, but I'm just here for him today. So besides the funny accent, as you may know, I think it's the second main accent of Australia, being from South Africa. I've now been here nearly 3 years, loving it. We won't talk about rugby. I think at the moment, South Africa and Aussie are in the same place, but we'll leave it there. Been in agency pretty much my whole life. I actually sometimes use the terminology, the BBC, born before computers. So we did marketing the traditional way, when we actually had to go with gut. And I think, I'm glad to see nowadays we don't have to. We have digital that does it for us. When I left South Africa to come here, it was quite challenging to get into agency, not understanding the culture, not understanding the slang, maybe even the humor. I still don't quite understand the humor. Little words, how I pronounce certain things, like the way I pronounce errata is very different in what it means. So I thought the next best thing would be to set up a consultancy where I could still bring knowledge and learnings and pain and suffering and all those good things, and work with agencies, and that way still stay within the community, but not necessarily be directly involved in running an agency. So it's kind of a quick overview of why I have a consultancy now and not an agency, which is Beyond Intent. Not too many people know what intent marketing is, Jared. I don't know if you've done the read up on it.
We'd love to hear your aspects on it, because everyone's got a different aspect on marketing, right? So give the audience a bit of an overview on intent-based marketing.
Cool. So intent is basically the why. Now everyone goes, "Oh, that's Simon Sinek." Yes, Simon Sinek, who's going to be coming to Australia soon. Definitely worth seeing if you've read his work or watched some of his TEDx videos.
Definitely have.
So that isn't why we set up an intent marketing consultancy. We wanted to basically help brands. And as I said, I work with agencies, I work with brands, I work with any company that's looking for a little bit of some help or maybe some external eyes. But the reason why people do what they do and the reason why they consume what they do is quite important when you're marketing in the modern day or trying to get your products out in the modern world. So the simple reason is that, we make stuff, we produce content, we produce brands and products, but no one actually really sits down and says, well, why would someone buy my product versus someone else's? Or why would they use my service instead of someone else's? There's a couple of obvious ones there. You can bring up the Apple fanboy argument where, anything that Apple makes, people are going to run and buy because it's Apple. That used to be the case for me. I'm having a little bit of a trial separation with Apple at the moment. I'm not in love with them as much as I used to be after the new iPhone, but I'm not going to tear that wound open. I've just licked my wounds for the last 2 weeks. But then also it's a case of what your personal beliefs are. And this is where intent marketing really comes into it. I'm not going to bash vegans, but they're a really good example of why you need to understand how to market to people. And that we can't just group people into a category anymore and go, and let's see what happens. So if you were going to put an advert out there and maybe had something that was not organic or conscientious in the way it was produced, and have that even in the background. I've got a fancy background here, which I could probably have a look at and see if there's anything there that gives away that maybe it shouldn't. You would lose a big part of your audience if you did something that would maybe offend. And we've all seen those campaigns. There's been campaigns where big brands have had a kid that might have been the wrong nationality, or maybe there's been a reference that shouldn't have been, said. Any little thing can spark off. And of course, with social marketing, negative marketing and negative comments fly across the internet a lot faster than anything positive. So what we do as an intent-based consultancy is we sit down and we say, right, why do people buy what you do? What have you been doing that would make them consider you as a brand or a service offering? And how do we find where these people are, these tribes of people?
Yes.
When I started my career, we would aim at males 80, 35 that lived in Perth. That would be a target. That would be an easy thing to do. It doesn't work like that anymore. Now it's male, female, people that don't recognize as a gender, that would consume your products. And a very good example that I use there is whiskey. We're not going to turn this into a whiskey podcast or a whiskey show, but let's do an experiment, right? I haven't met you before. We've had a chat, and now we're having an interview, and we're two mates that could be sitting somewhere together. Do you drink whiskey?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, from time to time.
And do you have a preference to whiskey, like a Highland or a Peat, or is it just whiskey for you?
I'm pretty, like, I must say there's no particular one that I go for or anything. I do, like, flavor wise, I like a bit of a woody taste to it.
Okay.
To my whiskey.
Right. So
or smoky
I was
type
getting
taste to
somewhere
it.
with this.
Yep.
We're both males.
Yep.
You live in Perth. I live in Sydney. I think I'm quite a bit older than you, but I'm going to pretend I'm not. We both like whiskey, but here's the big differentiator. You said you like the woody flavor of whiskey.
Yeah.
I can't stand that.
Okay.
So I can't go anywhere near the hardwoods or the smoke. I'm right on the other spectrum. Now, as a marketer, needing to understand that is quite important, because if they were going to market to just us, they're only going to get a 50% hit.
Yes.
They're going to get you if it's a Ardbeg, which is woody, and they're not going to get me. But they might have other whiskies in their distillation. So now they just leave me altogether because I never clicked the button. And that's where intent comes into it.
Yes.
So by understanding the content, the context, the state of mind, all these other factors that people don't necessarily take into consideration when putting together a campaign, that's what intent is. That's the nutshell.
Yeah, I totally agree with you as well, because it's not as simple as just throwing something out there anymore. I know, like, a few years ago on social media, you could do that. You could put an ad campaign up and literally, like, it's as broad as all hell, and it would get results. Whereas now it's got to be like the awareness factor of a lot of people through social media, and the way, like, the psychology and the amount of ads that they're getting hit with every single day. We've got to have an intent behind the whole campaign and understand more in depth
100%.
about these people and the types of people we're going to be going for, because it's not always going to be for everyone exactly what we're doing.
Correct.
And that's the clear understanding as well around the different types of whiskey tastes we've got. So I love that.
I mean, you mentioned social. Let's use that as an example, because it's obviously a very big part of everything that everyone does nowadays.
Yes.
I've actually got to where I was going to go, and I've kind of thrown myself back off again. But here's the example, and again, what I try and help my clients learn. If you jump onto, let's say, Facebook, right? You'll say, my friend has this green thing under her toe. Any suggestions as to what I should do to get rid of it? And 37 comments will come through, a couple of memes, some gifs, blah, 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 little likes, heart shapes, etc. The usual reaction.
Yes.
And you might get some information that you could use or might be viable to use. When you go to Google, you say, I have a green thing under my toe, because no one lies to a search engine. You're actually trying to get an answer. You're putting something out there because you're looking to find something back.
Yes.
So this is the difference in the fragmentation as it comes to marketing as well. So we have to understand the way we speak to people, the way they ask questions, the way they search for information. So it's not just as simple, and as you said earlier, of just going onto Facebook and seeing what happens. The fast-moving consumer good industry still does that. They still have that spray and stick mentality, and they're, and I'm talking about something like dishwashing or deodorant or anything that's really consumed at volume. They don't care. They would never follow the process of intent. They're like, we sell, I don't know, Lynx deodorant. We know that males are going to buy it. Let's just advertise to every single male that's over the age of 60 and see what happens. It works. It does work because they've got the money behind it and off they go. But
Yes.
most clients don't have the money to just waste to see what happens. So being able to understand psyche and state of mind when it comes to planning, this is what I try and do and what I try and help. And that's intent for me anyway.
Correct. Because I mean, intent, it doesn't only go into marketing, it goes through sales, it goes through every aspect of how you do business as well. And the person that has the
Correct.
most in-depth understanding of their marketplace is the one that wins. So I don't believe you can go into enough depth in these particular areas to be successful in these areas. So that's great. Really good thing to come up with as well, because obviously being that you've worked with agencies for quite a fair few years and different types of a broad spectrum of different types of
Just don't
business.
say how many years. I would say how old I am.
Oh, we won't go down that rabbit hole, all right? I feel like you're my age. I'm 31, right? So I feel like you're around my age.
A year or two older.
Or younger, maybe. I don't know. All good. So like, I mean, you've been in business for a while now and you've worked with a lot of different types of businesses. No doubt there's been a lot of highs, right? But what sort of
Yep, and
challenges
some of those.
Yeah, there would have been, definitely. We've all had them and it's great. It's awesome when it's going well. But let's talk about like some of the sort of challenges and
Yep.
more in-depth things that have happened over the years as well. That what would you say would be one of the biggest challenges that you've ever been through when it comes to either marketing or business or anything that you've come across in the past with relation to this?
I think the biggest one, and this is one that's still universal, regardless of whether you were doing business in the 1800s or will be doing business in the 2200s, and that's cash flow. Or more importantly, nowadays, gearing, and especially
Yes.
where we are with the startup economy that we find ourselves in globally, where more and more people are going into business for themselves, which I must just say I'm an advocate of. You're going to build a dream, make sure it's your dream. Don't build someone else's. But you do need to realize that some dreams are actually nightmares as well. That's part of the journey. So money is a problem. Money is always a problem. It always will be a problem. We never have enough of it. And then more importantly, when you do get money, what do you do with it? That becomes the biggest problem in its own right as well. I was just reading the article this last week with WeWork. Now they're forcing the CEO. He's now being forced to step down because he squandered money. Adam Newman, I think, he's now the non-executive chairman. Now, this was the co-founder of the company. The company was valued at $47 billion a few months ago. It's now 20. Where did the 27 go? This is the question. Other people might be sitting there going, wow, if I could only raise 100 grand, I could do X, Y, and Z. So money for me has always been the big problem. I have been fortunate. I've been fortunate that I've always been able to find and get involved with a really good network. That would be one of the tips that I would give to people is your network, your school tie, as they call it, where there's people that trust me and have been prepared to back me, knowing that there's risk involved in whatever venture it was at the time. And I've lost. I promise you now, anyone who tells you they haven't lost money, they're lying. The chances of success in any business is in the single digits. For the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of companies that are out there, a handful of them succeed. The definition of success is obviously, up to you. Some people take success as having the baby blue powder colored Bentley SUV. To me, it's being able to pay the bills and have money left over at the end of the day, as opposed to not having enough money to pay the bills. That's success. Making money in your first 3 to 5 years is almost impossible, and that's a challenge. Do you give up your dream? Do you keep it as a side project? So talking about the highs, and I'm a positive guy, Jared. I like to always be the glass half full, and every day the sun will rise kind of guy. But the reality is, to get to those highs, it's a lot of hard work, and the thing that does generally hold back is, we're talking about Facebook and advertising. It's not free. You can't grow your business unless people know about your business. And how do they know about your business? Well, you have to spend money. You've got to build the website. You've got to do the marketing. You've got to have cool shows like this that put the show out there. I hope you get some exposure from it, but you have to pay to get that show out there. Otherwise, only you and I and our parents know about it. And maybe our significant others as well. So that to me is the very big challenge, is, to enjoy all the successes and all the benefits of having a business is cash flow. An accountant taught me a little phrase a few years ago. It was profit is vanity. What did he say? Turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is reality. And that's the three little words that are always burnt back here. Doesn't matter how much turnover you've done. It means nothing if there's actually no cash in the bank at the end of the day. So
Very true.
money that's the key one, and finding it nowadays, it's getting harder and harder. Banks aren't lending money. Investors are getting scared. There's a lot of big companies that just aren't doing things. But yeah, but it is still out there. It is available.
Well, look at the consulting and coaching industry, for example, right? Like it's over $100 billion industry, right? So like you're looking at what 20 odd million people in Australia, and then that's just one small area, really. And a lot of the time, right, I totally agree. Like cash flow is something that can go up and down in business, and it can you can be scurrying for it at certain stages, and then the next moment, all of a sudden, a heap drops into the account, and it's like a lifeblood type thing. So
I know that feeling.
yeah, I think like
Guys, with the
everyone.
burger tonight, guys.
Yeah, we're having baked beans on toast tonight. Like it's
You mean you got toast? Wow, I've just got the can of baked beans.
can of baked beans, or just a piece of bread or something, like or pasta or whatever's the cheapest there, right?
Yeah.
99 cents from the supermarket, a kilo of pasta. But like at the same point in time, right, like a lot of the time when it comes to cash flow, managing it is very, very important, and ensuring that what your get out of bed costs are for the business every day. Because let's face it, whether you run it online or you run it in person, or like you've got your own offices and all that sort of stuff, right? There's like a break-even number, and there's certain metrics that you can track, because if you have, say, 100 conversations, you're going to turn into 10 sales, 20 sales, whatever. So it's knowing a lot of numbers around all of this. And me personally, I leave like this type of stuff to the experts around. Like I've got a really, really good account. A lot of this stuff.
You used a really good analogy there, the get out of bed number. I love that. You're a consultant, you're a coach, you're a mentor, as am I. Quite a lot of people, even though some people don't realize that they actually are. And that's one of the things that I've conditioned myself and my clients, is that it is easier to get the $3,000 gig. It is. It's a lot easier to go and ask someone for $3,000 than it is to ask them for $300,000. But there's two things. The one, it's the same amount of work, and 9 times out of 10, the $3,000 client requires more from you than the $300,000 client. And a lot of people that I speak to, and especially the younger guys and the guys that are starting out that are looking for advice, they're like, I can't take the chance and hunt the big client or the big project or, any of these things, because it takes so long to get the gig. I agree, it does. But I would every single day of the week rather stay in bed than get out for the $3,000, because the amount of work that you have to do for the $3,000 is exactly the same as it is for the $300,000. And if you go after 10 or 15 $300,000, the chances are you're going to get one. So, just suck it up. You eat the baked beans without the toast. Eat them cold because you can't afford the electricity for the microwave. But chase the bigger client and make sure that it actually makes it worthwhile to get out of bed. That's such a great phrase that you use there. The other thing that I advise people, and I kind of mentioned it now, one of the most important things in my career is a mentor. Now, a mentor takes very different shapes and forms. It can be a business coach, and I'm going to put a caution note straight away on the business coach. I've worked in a couple of companies where we've had a business coach as part of our company. So sitting as a director on the C-level, we all had to use a business coach. It was mandated by our CEO. And there was, in this particular instance, there were 4 directors in the company. The other 3 loved the business coach. I hated him. I just could not work with this individual. And yet I had to use him because it was mandated. That was a negative experience. Now, normally from an experience like that, I would walk away and say, I'm never going to get a business coach again. What I suggest is you go and find the right one straight away, because they are such valuable people to you. Now, whether it's a business coach or someone that does this as a profession, whether this is someone that's maybe older or wiser, that's been in business long enough, that's happy to have a cup of coffee with you once a month, or even just someone that's not even in the industry in any way, shape, or form. But it is so critical for any business owner at any stage of his or her career, whether they're a startup, whether they're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, to have that one person that they can go to whenever they need to, when things are a little bit bad, when things are a bit down, when there's a hard decision to be made, just to have that person who you know has your back. And that's why sometimes on the business coach side, even more importantly, that if you, because there you're paying them for their service and their knowledge, and their stuff's good. It has to be the right person, and it's make or break. It really makes a big difference. My mentor is someone who's, well, I don't pay him, but any single time that I'm feeling a little bit, just a little bit below that 50% positive mark, I'll reach out to him and I'll say, can I have a breakfast with you? Or can we go for a beer or coffee, or whenever will fit into your day? And he goes, oh, well, what do you need? What's wrong? He's like, you never phone me when things are right. You never say, let's go for lunch when things are right. So that's the part 2 of the advice that I'm giving. Reach out to that same person when you're actually in a good mood, when you don't need advice, when you actually want to just go and have a really good chat and build that relationship, because that person is critical to your success. And it has been in my career. When I've had my highs and my lows, it's always been the same person that's been there, that's been my voice of reason. And that's really good. And the second and third part of that equation is you have to have a good accountant and a good attorney. Now, hopefully you don't ever need the attorney. Hopefully you never get into the situation where you're living inside court. But you're going to conclude deals. You're going to get given a legal document of a service level agreement, if that's your industry. So in marketing or in advertising, you've got to deliver. So, if you're working with a big client, and I've just said, chase the $300,000 or the $500,000 client, that means that they're a blue chip. That means that the contract will have more than one page, or it won't be an email or an SMS that says, awesome, you've got the job. You're going to get a contract, and you're going to need an attorney to read that contract. And if you think you can read it yourself, you probably can. You might have even done some legal work or some law studies at uni. Get an attorney. It's worth every single cent that you spend with them. I'm not suggesting you get them to read everything, but that final once over, that little loophole that you didn't see. It was 11 o'clock at night, you were tired, you didn't read the contract that clearly, they'll pick it up. And then, as you mentioned now with cash flow, the accountant is critical. You need someone that's going to sit you down and say, Jared, you actually can't afford to do X, Y, and Z. And this is why. And this is what you can do to fix it. But that's critical information as well. And those are the 3 things that I think have put me in good stead in my multiple journeys. I've built companies from scratch. I've acquired companies, I've sold companies, and I've lost companies where we've lost significant money.
How did you cope with the companies where you lost significant amounts of money?
It's happened twice.
Twice. Okay.
Twice.
And
so, first
how
of all,
yeah.
So the first time it happened, I was quite young. I literally stayed in bed for a week with the covers over my head, and the world was over. That was it. End of the world, life's over. X years old, and that's it. I'm done. And then I put my big boy pants on, and I got out of bed, and I had a shave, and I went out there, and I faced the music. And the thing that put me in good stead for that situation, as well as when it did happen again, is honesty. Honesty with yourself, and honesty with the people that are being affected by whatever's transpired in that loss when their company's closed down, where the money's gone or whatever's happened. And on both occasions, it wasn't anything I did wrong. It was circumstantial. The industry had changed, made some bad decisions. My business partner had made some bad decisions. But the key to success and or carrying on is honesty. I picked up the phone. I set up meetings with all the managing directors or CFOs of the companies that were going to be affected. I went to them, I said, this is the situation. You can sue me. I have no money. I have, nothing's going to happen. Or we can put a payment plan in place and I'll pay you off as I can. Or it is what it is. And thankfully, they were accommodating. We put payment plans in place and they still supply me to this day. So it shows that you can actually go through big losses, get to numbers that you agree on, sort it out. But the most important thing there on both occasions was honesty. The second part of that honesty discussion is your clients, the people that you're now affecting. Luckily, I hadn't taken money in advance where people had lost money. Like with me, it was more a case of being in media and that I'd committed to maybe taking a billboard or a bus shelter that I now couldn't pay for. So there wasn't, luckily, real big losses to people where direct costs had been spent. It was more opportunity costs that were now lost. And in a lot of those situations, said, well, it happens, Brett. We appreciate the honesty, and we agreed to just write off the contract without any ramifications. On one or two of them, I had placed media that needed to be paid for, and I put payment plans in place, and we took care of it. And as I said, they still supply us today. If I have a media campaign, I know I can book on their systems and I won't have issues. But the thing is that it is going to happen. The most successful people in the world have lost money. They've lost businesses. It just happens. It's not the measure of your business. The most important thing is how you as an individual handle that. And I think the most critical thing is that you will move on. It's how you move on, and is your reputation intact, that when you do move on, you're like, oh, you're not the guy that was responsible for WeWork losing $27 billion. I don't know if I'm going to hire that guy as my CEO.
So I'm sure he's a good CEO, right? Like I'm sure he's good at what he does.
He built a big business. Yeah, he built up a business that was worth $47 billion before an IPO. So he must have been good. And then I don't know what went wrong. Elon Musk is a great example. He's a bit nuts at the moment. He says things he shouldn't say. He does things he shouldn't do. But is he a good CEO? Definitely. Would I hire him? 100%. Like, well, I can't afford him. But it's a case of, always, if you're going to write a check, make sure you can cash it. If your mouth's going to say something, make sure you can back it up. And that's been critical to my success. My second business that I lost, I reached out to people in my network and I said to them, I've got this idea to do X, Y, and Z. I just don't have the money to do it, but it would work so well within your company. Can we spin up another division within your brand and leverage your clients? And they did. It was three and a half really good years that I spent with that company. I built a division. By the time I left, there were 40 people inside the company. We sold it out for really good money. And yeah, that was a success story. But there are failures. I promise you there are failures. And little failures along the journey as well,
And look, I love that you've shared all of that too, as to because any business owner that says that they haven't had some failures in the past or cash flow up and down or no cash flow or lost companies, lost other things, right, or whatever it is not telling you the whole truth, really.
They're lying.
So
they're lying. It's point blank. I mean, they are. I think the most important thing, though, this is a channel about advice, and I mean, it's my opinions and my advice, but where a lot of people get it wrong, especially when you're running businesses that are worth millions of dollars. I spend quite a lot of time in TV land. So TV shows like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, X Factor, The Voice. I did the digital on all of those shows. That was the division that I spun up in that story I was saying. This was back in South Africa. So the company was worth substantial money. Don't lose focus. This is where things go really, really wrong. Everyone says if you do something, do it well, and don't be a jack of all trades in that. Sometimes it's good to be a jack of all trades, blah, blah, blah. As the CEO, as the owner of the business, don't lose focus. There's nothing wrong with starting a second business, third business, fourth business. That's great. And then you build an empire. But if you are selling t-shirts, sell t-shirts. That's what you do. Don't now start selling reservations at restaurants as well, because you've done t-shirts for restaurants. And this is what happens, right? You start supplying t-shirts to restaurants. Now you're thinking, well, hold on a second. 80% of my business is restaurants. Maybe I can sell serviettes to restaurants. That's still kind of aligned. You're still selling an input. That's great.
It's value
Now,
wrapping your
don't start
business.
trying to headhunt. Correct, which is great. And that's increasing the size of the ARPU, the average revenue per user or per client. But don't start doing human resources now to start training restaurant staff to bring into their company. That's not what you do, Don't start financing restaurants. That's what the banks do. Sell t-shirts. You want to sell caps? You want to sell aprons? You want to sell serviettes? Awesome. Anything that involves selling a product into a customer, that's what you do, and stick to it. And I've seen so many of my colleagues and my mates go down that rabbit hole where they have extra cash. Someone comes and says to them, hey, you've got some extra money. I've got this business idea. Let's do it. And it sounds great. It looks great. It sounds exciting. But you only have 24 hours in the day. And if you're going to dedicate them to what you do. Don't dedicate them to what someone else does. You want to invest in something. That's great. Let's sit down with that founder and say, here's 10 grand, cut me in for X%, but I don't have time to get involved. If you're coming to me as your mentor, you want me to be your CEO, whatever, if you don't have that time, don't do it. Because now you're putting 50% of your time into two different companies instead of 100% of your time into what you should be doing. People are going to sit here and go, oh, hold on a second, what about Richard Branson? Or, they own multiple companies. Yes, but it started with one company. And then he employed someone else to do something.
Virgin
else,
Records, right?
Someone else. Correct. It was. Yeah. It actually wasn't. His first business, if I remember correctly, was a magazine. At 16 years old, he did a student's magazine.
Okay.
So he was a publisher. So, but records make sense because it's still publishing. You're publishing vinyl now instead of paper. And Virgin Airways was a mistake. He was on an island and the flight was cancelled, so he did a charter, and he sold the seats on the charter. But he then built a holding company to take care of all these other companies. He didn't lose focus. He was still doing what he was doing.
Yes.
Microsoft is exactly the same. Every time they've stepped out of their comfort zone, which is selling software, they've cocked up. They bought Skype. They didn't know what to do with it. They sold it back. They bought, what was the other thing? LinkedIn, they've bought recently. I personally think they're messing it up. But still software. They bought Nokia. They sold Nokia. They started buying computers. They sold computers. It's not what they do. They're a software company.
Yes.
They can do any software they want as long as they stick to software and that they do well. Well, that's debatable. I'm an Apple user, so
so am I.
They are the biggest. They're the biggest. Look, they're the biggest operating system in the world. So they've done something right. But I'm very quick to pick out where they got it wrong. And that's because they diversified into areas that wasn't what they do. Doesn't work. So yeah, that would be my advice is, don't lose focus. It's easy to lose focus, but don't lose focus. And especially if you're in your early stage of your journey.
Definitely right. And at the end of the day, there's this thing they've labeled it now. It's called shiny object syndrome, right? Where there's so many opportunities. People go, hey, start ecom or become a coach, become a consultant, start network marketing, or whatever it is, and there's so many different things that you can be doing. And then once you get into that business, then there's so many different types of people you can help in different ways as well. Whereas if you maintain focus and you've got a product that gets results for people, and you continue to focus on that particular product, and really, you can go as deep as you want with one particular product. You don't need 10 million different products. You can go as deep as you want with one particular product, and you can value wrap services around that once you've got a successful business.
History proves that, right? The company that sells pencils sells pencils. They might make a thick pencil, a thin pencil, a colored pencil. That's all that they do, and everyone's buying the pencil. One of the slides that I always put up in my presentation is when there's a gold rush, sell pickaxes, because everyone's going to need a pickaxe to dig, but not everyone's going to find gold. So you'll make your money out the gold rush through the ancillary services, but you sell pickaxes. That's what you do. So, the shiny object, as you say, and it's so easy, right? You're sitting looking in your computer, thing pops up, you go, wow, that's a great idea. the worst thing in the world, Indiegogo and Kickstarter and all these companies. Well, I'm going to invest in that. Actually, I'm going to start building a business like that. You're late to the game. If you're seeing it already, it's done. And with the global world that we have and digital connections, I mean, look at us talking online. Someone somewhere has probably already done it if you're thinking of it. I'm not killing your dreams, but if you've got 1 billion apps in the App Store, that means we have something that if you can think of 1 billion things and you can think of 1,000,000,001 thing, well, then you've got something. But, I'm just saying that keep it simple. Do what you're good at. First of all, you've got to love what you do. That's critical. If you ever wake up in the morning and go, oh, I hate my job, or I hate this, and I've had that as well, Jared. I've had companies where I'm just not enjoying what I'm doing. Sold it. If I couldn't sell it, I closed it. It happened. It's not a failure. It's just a check.
It's a journey.
Boom.
Didn't
want to do it anymore. It's a choice. Yeah. So that's quite important as well. That's definitely a message a lot of people don't really get. If you don't love it, don't do it. You're going to be doing 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. You must love it.
100%. I love how because we talk a lot of strategy and things like that, and what I find, I love that we're talking about focus, right? And because focus doesn't only just go into the business, but it's focusing even on critical tasks of a day to maximize results as well. So focus is literally what I would say, because you look at all these people, right? And some people are like a overnight success. It's used, right? But it's taken them 20 years to get to a certain point where they do. But sometimes, right, there's these unicorns, right? And you go, okay, they've just started a business 12 months ago, and now all of a sudden, they're doing 500 grand, a million, whatever, right? But it's because they understand the power of focus, and they understand how to focus on tasks and what's going to get results. And they understand that, they focus on building teams and all these other little aspects as well is the reason why they grow so quickly. And if you go to someone, you ask these people how they do it or what they've done, it's pretty, yeah.
I was actually consulting this morning around that exact topic. We were talking about unicorns and that how do these guys get $500 million thrown at them in a Series E, okay, which puts the valuation at like $8 billion, and they've done nothing. It's a very simple answer. They have done something. They came up with an idea that was based on X number of years. There have been ones where two guys sitting in a pub having a beer and they came up with an idea and boom, it happens. But normally, they've worked in their fields. They've found all the problems in their fields. They've sat down. They've articulated what needs to be done to rectify it. Uber, Airbnb, then built a minimum viable product, tested it, got the validation that they needed, got an angel investor, started doing something, ramped up very quickly, and that's why they're getting all this money thrown at them. Not that their idea is any better than yours. It's not that their industry is any different to yours. It's just the fact that they've focused, they did what they needed to do, they had a problem, found out how to solve it, and then they monetized it. And that there is the secret to why 1 out of every 1,000 actually succeeds and not 100, And as soon as that first bump in the road comes along, half the people fall off the bus. And that's life. I've got a mate who makes his living from 6 websites. That's all. He's got 6 websites on 6 different genres, all niched. And he works 6 hours a day, 1 hour a day on each website. And he told me, he said, so many people try and do this. He makes the money from the affiliate and the advertising and blah, blah, blah. We all know these types of businesses. The difference is he did it for a year before he saw a single dollar, not $1 for a year. Now you tell me how many people are prepared to work for a year for zero. But he did. Now he makes good money, very good money. He can go away for 3 months and not have to touch his websites and they still churn the cash. So, but no one hears that side of the story. They might have only just discovered the website yesterday, but it's been there for a year or 2 years or 3 years. But the reason they've discovered is because it's been there for 2 or 3 years already. And that's why it does what it does. And this is the thing, there is no such thing as an overnight success. It is really hard work. It's commitment and it's focus and support. Your family has to support you. I have a wife and a son. I give up family time all the time. You know, they go away for a month or 2 months on holiday at the end of the year, like December, January. I stay behind and I work. Why? Because companies are closed and it's time that I can sit and work and focus on my project and my business, as opposed to going and lying on the beach, which I'd love to do. So those sacrifices come through support, and hopefully, ultimately, you know, in a few years' time, I will be able to go away for a month or 2 months, and my business will tick over, and I won't have to do anything. And that's what, you know, that's what it's all about. But it's definitely, it's not an overnight success where I'm going to do this and millions of dollars are going to come. That doesn't work.
Thanks so much for the insights today. It's been a very enlightening conversation. And I know that
Thank you.
many people as well that will be watching this as well will find so much value in it, because everything does take work. It does take focus. It does take an ability to, no matter what's thrown at you, to continue on and continue to master the art of the craft that you're working, right? So it's the same as in a consulting business, right through to either cafes or whatever it is that you're running, right?
Yep.
It's good to know, like, to give people that understanding, because, you know, you were speaking about cash flow and things like that as well, and having good accountants and good mentors and people around you that can support you through it, which is both family and also business wise. So I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show and everything today.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a great chat.
It has been, definitely. Anything else that you would like to add in sort of finishing up to sort of, I guess, any other tips or anything like that you'd like to give to the audience before we go?
I think, I mean, it all goes along the same vein for me. You know, it's hard, chin up, you know, roll with the punches, and they're going to come. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you put in the hard work, you do see the successes. I've seen that anyway, and my clients have seen it. So yeah, that's it.
Grow thick skin, in other words.
Very.
Thank you so much, Brett. I really, really appreciate you being on the show today. If people want to reach out to you and maybe work with you or find out a little bit more about you, how would they go about doing that?
Okay, well, website beyondintent.com.au.
Yes.
There's a form there. They can fill that out. Brett at beyondintent.com.au, I suppose, email. On Twitter at FatCatBrett, which is PhatCat.
What's the
Not
story
FAT.
behind that?
I had an agency called Fat Cat, spelled that way. So in those days, you registered every brand you could. So my Skype, even my gaming handle is Fat Cat. You know. So yeah, there's actually very interesting. It was an estate agent that used to call everyone Fat Cat. So he would, you know, like how you and I might say, "Hey mate," or "Hey bud," or whatever. He would call everyone Fat Cat. So it was like we were sitting. I had two business partners when we started that agency. It's like, what are we going to call the company, Fat Cat? And the other one, Darren, was like, oh, I don't know, Fat Cat. I was like, guys, Fat Cat. There it is. You know, it's there. That's how it started. So it's just stuck. I even had the registration on my car, Fat Cat GP. My phone number was 0861 Fat Cat. So it's stuck. But yeah, so web, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm available pretty much on all the platforms. I'm kind of a little bit of a digital slut.
Hey, it's good. It's good. Embrace the time, definitely.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We'll chat soon.
Yes, we will, definitely. Thanks so much for being on the show, guys.
Thanks so much, Jode.
And for anyone that's watching today, whether you're watching this across social media, Facebook, anywhere, feel free to share it. Like, comment below with any questions that you have. Either myself or Brett will be more than happy to answer those, no doubt. And remember, look, if you guys don't fight for your own freedom out there, nobody else will. So you must get out there, take action, make it happen every single day, and continue to beat on the craft, continue to focus. And we'll see you on the next episode of The Scalers Show. Until then, we'll speak with you guys soon.
Cheers.